If I told you that colleges have become worse than nursery schools, would you believe me? You probably would. Recently, Gibson Bakery won a massive lawsuit against Oberlin because Oberlin, according to the jury, was facilitating defamation and helping protesters lie and smear and target their business. The total determination from the jury, $44 million, which will probably be restricted or already has to $33 million due to state limits. So let's just call it a $33 million maximum penalty under the law is being imposed against Oberlin. Really quickly, the gist of the story. The shopkeeper at Gibson's Bakery caught some kid shoplifting. The kid happened to be black. Protesters claimed it was racial discrimination and profiling. And then protests ensued. But guess what? Gibson won. Now, the story has wrapped up, but we are seeing Legal Insurrection publish excerpts from the court case, which, my God, will blow your mind. I saw this Twitter thread, and I was absolutely impressed with some of the admissions from the college about what's really going on at these universities. Let's start with the first tweet, of which there are many. And I will say, props to Legal Insurrection has done a great job covering this, seriously. They tweeted, "This weekend, going to be tweeting excerpts from our Gibson Bakery v. Oberlin College trial coverage. Will take a while. Watch this thread. Let's start with administrator suggesting campus worse than nursery school. Check this out. Gibson's attorney, Lee Plakis, asked Protzman what was the reason for cutting ties with the business they had worked with for more than a century. I kid you not, Gibson Bakery since 1885. They cut him off. He pointed out emails from various administrators that the student might throw a tantrum on campus, specifically in the cafeteria while eating dinner, and that might be a good reason to get their cookies and bagels elsewhere. The concern was that the students were angry, Plakis asked. The fear was that angry students would throw food made by Gibson's on the floor and stomp on it. Yes, that was one of the concerns, Protzman answered. Doesn't that sound more like a nursery school than a college? Nursery school students do throw food on the floor. Yes, Protzman said, adding, we are not the students' parents, as the reason the school could not tell the students to quit threatening to throw food on the floor and eat their dinner like nice people do. Wow. The mask slips. The regressive college students literally are children who have never grown up. My God, am I happy I dropped out of high school. Let me tell you something. My friends who dropped out of high school, successful. I'm not exaggerating. All successful. No, I shouldn't say all. But a couple of my people are very well-known professionals in their profession, making a lot of money. And I'll tell you why. From music to skateboarding or otherwise, these people left high school to do something they wanted to do, and they made it. I have friends who dropped out of college, and they're also doing fairly well. None of them are homeless. But guess what? My friends who graduated college are in debt and struggling, living with their parents and et cetera. So, and I am glad I didn't go, because is that where you want to send your kids? Like, let this be a warning to parents. What do you think's happening? Your children are throwing food around and whining and crying. My God, that is insane. Check this out. Oberlin College claimed administrators were at the protest to calm things down. Police disagreed. Ortiz also questioned the supposition from Oberlin College that the school's employees on the scene at the protest, including Dean of Students Meredith Raimondo, a defendant in the case, were only there to calm the situation down. I didn't see anyone trying to calm the students down at all, Ortiz said. Didn't see any of them instructing the students not to use curse words, and didn't hear any of them tell their students not to shout that Gibson is racist. The sidewalks were filled up, and a lot of businesses closed in the early afternoon because they were afraid. So here's what they were handing out. A local reporter testified Raimondo, who is an administrator of the school of Oberlin, tried to block him from taking photos of the protest and handed him a flyer accusing Gibson's of racial profiling. So someone from the Oberlin News Tribune, with a print circulation of less than 1,000, testified he was repeatedly blocked from taking photos of the protest. Sound familiar? Remember that woman who yelled about getting muscle to block the press? Yeah, they don't like it when people expose them for what they really are. And this is what she apparently handed out: defamatory information. A long account of profiling and discrimination. Sorry, that's not true. Oberlin College had no trespass list, keeping about 400 locals off campus, and it had a disproportionate number of African Americans on it. Sounds like the college was the racial profiler, not Gibson's. This stuff that you can't write this for a TV show, right? It turns out, as I've explained over and over again, and of course most of you know this, and it sucks, preaching to the choir. I get it, but listen. Did you know that I am a mixed race person? And you want to know why I bring this up? To stress the point that these people are racist, and they have been racist to me as long as I've known them. I'm talking about like the regressive activists. At Occupy Wall Street, they were racist. They've always been racist. They are still racist. And you know who hasn't been racist? Regular people. Like not these fringe wackos, okay? These people are racists. Are there racists associated with conservatives? Yup. Most conservatives and most liberals I meet, normal people, not racist. So you want to talk about extremists? These people are extremists and they're racist and they hide behind anti-racism. Plain and simple. So they basically just reiterate what I just said. They had 400 people who live locally on a no trespass list, and a large number of the community were upset about it because there was a disproportionate number of African Americans on it. Wow. Less than a month after the protest, Tito Reed sent an email to her boss laying out how she thought things could be fixed. This is what the jury read today. So can we draft a legal agreement clearly stating that once charges are dropped, the purchase orders with Gibson's will resume? I'm baffled by their combined audacity and arrogance to assume the position of the victim. Raimondo testified she didn't know if racial profiling accusations were true. This is big. Someone else testified that Raimondo, who is with the school, was handing out flyers that said, it is true, they do this, but then testified she didn't know. Well, I think you've just proven malice. I'm not a legal expert, but my understanding is that malice is the understanding that you knew something may not be true or you knew it to be false when you shared that information. So if she argued, I didn't know if it was true or not, but I'm going to claim it as anyway, then I think they can prove. So in this one, they say, Placas presented her with a paper that asked if she agreed or disagreed with the statement about assault. Agreed to check the proper box. Raimondo hemmed and hawed a bit, but then said her answer was, I don't know. So Placas wrote, I don't know on the paper and asked her to sign her name as to that being her answer. They say, going on, that wasn't enough for Placas, though, as he seems to have realized he may have struck some gold here. He then pulled out Oberlin College's Student Senate resolution passed a day after the shoplifting event and pulled out this gem from that. Quote, Gibson's has a history of racial profiling and discriminatory treatment of students and residents alike. Once again, Raimondo was asked if she agreed or disagreed with that statement. She again answered, I don't know. And Placas brought the next group of papers up to her initial, and it goes on. But if she's going to claim and hand out flyers to journalists, but then later say, I don't know, well, you're gonna lose your case. Former Oberlin College security director was at protest and testified college admin's not trying to calm things down, and college admin tried to intimidate him into not taking photos. Former nurse at college went to comfort David Gibson's wife, who was distraught at protests, as protests raged outside. Legal Insurrection then tweets, wonder why the jury found actual malice. Internal emails are big part, including Raimondo's unleash the students and F him. And there you go. Internal emails of them saying, first of all, it was testified they were handing out fake news. It was testified that the woman didn't know if it was real or not. And then she said, F them. Well, there it is. So check it out. He closed with, F them, they've made their own bed now. All these idiots complain about the college. When Roger Copeland, an Oberlin College professor of theater and dance, wrote a letter to the campus newspaper soon after the protest ended, he criticized how the school was treating Gibson's in the letter. Jones sent a text message in caps saying, F Roger Copeland. F him, Raimondo responded in a message. I'd say unleash the students if I wasn't convinced this needs to be put behind us. They knew the students were a weapon against those who wouldn't bend the knee. These people are psychotic, disgusting authoritarians who know exactly what they're doing. Man, wow, this is incredible stuff, I gotta say. These documents. I want to add one thing. Side note. Google is being sued for discrimination. They're moving into the discovery phase. Okay, the reason I bring this up is everything we're seeing from here presumably came through discovery, like private text messages. Wow. Isn't it amazing when you lift the curtain and see how these people really act? No, we didn't do anything wrong. We're fighting for truth and justice. No, they said unleash the students, even though they also believed it was akin to a nursery school where the children, the infants, were threatening to throw food on the ground. And that's what the school was scared of. We cannot allow this kind of behavior. Seriously. I am so happy to hear that Gibson's won in this in this regard. So they said sometimes lawyers. Well, actually, let's go back. In response to the FM and unleash the students, check this out. Raimondo was given these examples and others, and then asked a very simple question: when personal beliefs get involved in decision making, does that have an effect on trying to maintain professional responsibility? And asked plaintiff's attorney Lee Plakis. She was asked specifically about herself and the higher-ups in the Oberlin College admin. Her answer was quite surprising. Their position is to not have a position. Several of the jurors shook their heads in surprise when they heard that from her. Wow. Sometimes lawyers ask a question just to make a point. You did these things to appease the students for the school to be thought of as treating minority students better, right? The statement is absolutely false, Raimondo answered. African-American bakery employee denied racism, said Raimondo orchestrating protest and flyer distribution. She had a stack of them, and while she was talking on the bullhorn, she handed out half of them to a student who then went and passed them out. That's her officially acting in her professional capacity to target a small business, and you lose. They should have been awarded more money. Give them the full $44 million. A message needs to be sent to these regressive authoritarians who care nothing for justice and just want to watch the world burn. We have an army of jokers running around, giggling and laughing as everything falls apart, and that's what they want. This woman doesn't care about minorities. It was an African-American bakery employee who presumably lost their job because they said they had to lay people off. Let me tell you something. During Occupy Wall Street, there was an individual who's rather prominent working for a major newspaper. I know this person decently well. And we talked in private, and this individual told me they were doing it to watch the world burn. Complete nihilism. They said, life is boring. Don't you want to shake things up a bit? And I said, no, I want to make the world a better place. I want a Star Trek future. I want to travel the stars. And that means we need to make sure we can work together and advance our civilization. And they said, no, none of that matters. It's nonsense. The world is boring. This person is still extremely active with Antifa today. That's what they told me. I was told by some other activists during Occupy Wall Street, they want to flip the pyramid upside down. Now, when most people hear that, they're thinking you take the bottom, poor people, and put them on top and the rich people on the bottom. But I asked in response to this, if you take a pyramid and flip it upside down, the bricks will crumble and it'll form the same pyramid. But someone from the bottom will be the new top and everyone else will fall down. And they said, exactly. That's right. Flipping the pyramid upside down doesn't put the proletariat above the bourgeoisie. It just causes the pyramid to collapse and shape into a new, rigid and ugly-looking pyramid with different people on top. And they told me that's what they wanted. And these are some pretty prominent activists who are still relatively active today. Student protesters initially entered bakery and harassed customers and staff. I asked them to leave and they wouldn't. And they started pushing their cameras in my face and yelling things at me. Store employees had tires slashed. Lorna Gibson on husband David. It isn't just a job for him and all of us. It's been our life. It's been crucial for him and our family. Oberlin College promised full investigation of incident, but never did. Raimondo suggested to Jones they could dodge the media's questions because our phrasing was unfortunate, and they said they were indeed doing an investigation. There's a lot here. Senior college admin rejected community warning. The students are on the wrong side of the issue, and they refuse to listen to anything that doesn't fit their narrative. The townspeople are furious. I find this misdirected rage very disturbing. Excuse me, that's a quote. Plakis, the lawyer, said, would it have killed Oberlin to say we got it wrong? Jones answered, this was between the students and Gibson. We don't speak for the students. I was neither wrong nor involved. Yet we already heard that one of the administrators got on the bullhorn and handed out flyers. And then he says that legal instruction that completes day 14 of 13 days of witness testimony. Keep in mind, as Oberlin College tries to spin this as them being responsible for student speech, that's not what the case is about. It was their own conduct. And then goes on to say, keep in mind, brilliant trial strategy by Zengis Plakis. This is the lawyer. Start Gibson's Bakery case by going directly after and destroying key Oberlin College witnesses and defenses, as I noted on day 1. We'll go on. Yeah, let's make this a long video. Marketing expert called by Gibson's pointed out college-age consumers' decisions driven by desire to be perceived as fitting in. Oberlin College unsuccessfully tried to keep out police records showing no racial profiling at Gibson's Bakery. 40 arrested, 32 were white, 6 were African American, and 2 were Asian. Pretty much matched city's racial makeup. Check that out. You often hear about these people saying we want proportionality, right? Parity with the national level population distribution. That means, at Google they should have X many Asians, X many white. What happens when Gibson's Bakery, their arrest record for shoplifting fits the actual population diversity? I guess we're going to call it proportionality. They call that racial profiling. When 80% of those arrested at Gibson's Bakery were white, doesn't matter. 6 were black, therefore it's racial profiling. They're lying. And they tried to keep that evidence out. These people are truly, truly despicable. This is not justice. This is manipulation, authoritarianism, and playing to people's goodwill to try and destroy an innocent family. Culture of corruption. Large percentage of shoplifting arrests at Oberlin a large percentage of shoplifting arrests were Oberlin College students, 82.5%. What Student Mag called the Oberlin College culture of theft. Wow. Magazine not admitted in evidence, but stats were. On day 7, they didn't rest. They presented plaintiff's damages expert. The bakery market had already lost and will lose about $5.8 million from the school's alleged racist accusations. David Gibson takes the witness stand in emotional testimony. I realized very soon on how everything had been going in this that my dad was going to pass away labeled as a racist. Think about that. I'm going through a current battle right now with one of my videos being censored. I could not imagine what it's like to be under the boot of this horrifying mob. I mean, I will say, I've been targeted by many of these activists. I've been physically assaulted. They lie about me all day and night. But I'm a relatively powerful individual. And I don't mean that to be egotistical. What I mean is, I've got over 1 million followers across the board. On YouTube alone, my 3 channels break over 1 million. I've got nearly 340,000 on Twitter. And I recognize with that comes certain power that small families like this don't have. I do not feel the same stress and pressure from getting people tweeting at me and lying about me. I ignore it. And people like Joe Rogan, he gets it all the time too, ignores it. Not everybody does. There are a lot of people kind of play to it. If I was a regular, like private figure, working a job at a theater or something, just like, a small, low salary, $10 an hour, $15 an hour job, small business owner selling widgets, and you have the entirety of the social justice community bearing down on you to destroy you, I could not imagine what that would be like. I can only imagine it's a nightmare. And so I don't want to read through the entirety of the testimony because there is a lot of tweets here and I don't want to relitigate the whole case. So I'll put a link to this thread so you guys can read on, but I want to end by stressing this point, which inspired me to talk about this video in the first place. When they actually agreed, nursery school students do throw food on the floor. That's what college is. It's a nursery school for children who never grew up. What a goddamn nightmare. Get your kids out of these schools, send them to go work, send them on a 2-week camping trip for the love of all that is holy. Take your kids out camping for a couple weeks and teach them what life is like in the wilderness. Teach them what it truly means to survive. Don't put them in daycare for 26 years and then cross your fingers and think they'll survive in the real world. I actually feel bad for these kids. I really do. I've got some friends who went to school for 26 years. Now, I shouldn't say 26 years, until they were 26 years old. They had never had a real job. They don't know what it's like to have to survive in dangerous territory. They don't know what it's like to have gangs in your neighborhood. Deaf people die of overdoses. No, they've been pampered and protected, and their parents bulldozed everything out from in front of them. And what do they become? Babies. They have the mentality of toddlers. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. When it's testified in court that the school actually views them in a similar way to nursery school students. The lawyer presented it. The fear was that students would throw food on the floor and stomp on it. Yes, that was a concern. Doesn't that sound more like a nursery school than a college? Nursery school students do throw food on the floor, yes. Bad parenting. Man, I don't know what's going to save us, but I'll say this. Millennials aren't having kids. They're not getting married. And Gen Xers, their kids, and yes, to an extent, the boomers' kids, like other millennials, are babies. They never aged out of being toddlers who are throwing temper tantrums and throwing food on the floor. And here we have it. I hope you enjoy, you reap what you sow. I hope you enjoy it. You reap what you sow, Oberlin. At $33 million, you know what I want to see? I want to see a photograph of the Gibson family on an expensive luxury yacht with their feet up, sipping pina coladas with a smile on their face. I want them to take that money first, protect your business. That's what it's for. But I hope to God they take a good slab of that money and they go party on a rooftop, looking over, a beautiful city with the skylights and the stars above them with a smile on their faces because they absolutely deserve it. No one deserves this nonsense from these fringe wacko mobs. Nobody. If you do something wrong, justice is coming. If you actually want to racially profile someone and be, discriminate against them in violation of civil rights law, justice will come for you all the same. But if you lie and you bend the knee as a school to whiny children who are throwing food on the floor and having temper tantrums, or like Evergreen State, then you will get your comeuppance. I'll leave it there. Man, long video, but you know what? Amazing story. Stick around. Next segment will be coming up at 1 p.m. I will see you there.